That stirred you, didn't it? You like to get advice. I know a lot of people who would like to give me advice, but I don't much like it. Any of you kids who were up here a little bit ago, did your mom or dad ever give you advice? Yeah, moms and dads are pretty good at giving advice, aren't they? You who are a little older, coming close to me, if you were a kid, did your mom or dad ever give you advice? Weren't you just thrilled when they gave you advice? Just thought that was about the best thing they could do for you. I don't think so. We tend not to like advice. We tend to, who do you think you are? You think you're smarter than I am? I can take care of myself. I can live my own life. Quite frankly, I don't need your advice. Not only do I not need it, I don't even want it. So there you are. Sermon over? Maybe not. Advice is a funny thing, isn't it? It's given with good intent, I think. It's given even with the sense of love. Most of the time. Now, from time to time, I have gotten unsolicited advice. Any of you ever get that time? And we wonder if it's really for our good and for our well-being. But most of you, I think maybe all of us, if we begin to think it through, think of the advice that your parents gave to you. Think of the advice that your teachers gave to you. Think of the advice that maybe someone else gave to you. Was it good? I think most of the time you would say their advice was good. I think most of the time you would say the advice they gave to you was for your well-being and for your betterment and to help you avoid some painful mistakes in your life. One of the things that piece of advice I often give is learn from the mistakes of others. I had a good friend who said, I don't learn from the mistakes of others, I have to make them myself. I reply, you don't have enough time to make all the mistakes. I believe that. We need to learn from others. We need to think through the situations of our own life. That brings me to the gospel lesson for today. And that brings me to really what the life and ministry of Jesus was all about. Think through with me for a moment everything you know about the life and ministry of Jesus. This could take quite a while, but quick, do it. And as we reflect on the life and ministry of Jesus, everything he did could kind of be focused in one of three categories. God sent his only Son, and his Son Jesus came to preach. You see that in the gospel today. He came to teach. We see that in the gospel today. And he came to heal. Those are the three characteristics of Jesus' life and ministry. And When you read your gospel, or when you come to worship and hear the gospel read, I think you will find that the gospel writers are giving us the story of Jesus that involves his teaching, his preaching, and his healing. Now, I don't know how you consider teaching, but in some respects, teaching is giving advice, huh? Maybe not straightforward, right-out advice, but think it through. And teaching is kind of telling you how the world works. It's kind of science. You go to science class, what do you learn? You learn how the world works. You go to English class, what do you learn? You learn how words communicate. You learn how people speak and write and communicate. You learn about the ways in which you can learn and explore and grow in the ways of the world. Name the class, name the teacher, and I could probably tell you someone who has given you some good advice about this world. Think that one through. Think that one through. And part of what Jesus came to do was to be a teacher and to give us not only the perspective of how the world works, but Jesus comes to give us a perspective of how God works and how God communicates with you. How does God encounter you? He encounters you with the Bible, the printed word, to be sure, as you read Scripture. He encounters you when you come to worship and you hear your fellow members read Scripture. Lead the children. Teach them about tolerance and happiness. We hear the preacher. You don't get to do much talking now, do you? That's why the preacher preaches. Education, teaching is more interactive. Preaching is one when somebody else unloads on you, huh? That's not so bad. Because that's how God encounters us. But remember, I mentioned Jesus is also the healer. Remember the first half of that gospel today? It talks about those who came, who were sick and ill, who had physical concerns, who had emotional, mental concerns, who were carrying pain and dis-ease of however that manifests itself in life. And Jesus touched them. He spoke to them. He gave them a kind word. He gave them the healing power of God to lift their hearts and their spirits and their very being. That's what God is all about. That's why his Son became incarnate, one of us, to bring a message of God's love, to bring a message of God helping you understand the complex world in which we live, to help you know that there is a perspective beyond just what this world has to offer. That brings us to the first reading we heard this morning from Jeremiah. Remember the imagery in that reading from Jeremiah? It's reflected also in Psalm 1. It talks about, blessed are those trees that grow by streams of water. And it also talks about those trees which are in the desert. They are not nourished by the life-giving waters. And Jeremiah and the psalmist make that contrast. And that's part of what Jesus did when he talked about, blessed are those who, and he talks about, woe to you. Where are we growing? Where are we nurtured? Where do the streams of living water come into your life and mine? It's from God. It is from His love and mercy reflected to each of us in His Son, Jesus Christ. Who was teaching, who was preaching, who was healing, to bring to each of us a message much greater and much more powerful than any word the world can give to us. And that brings us then to the second reading, the epistle, where Paul talks about the living Christ, the resurrected Christ, not one who was confined or limited by death, but the one who, by the power of God, was raised again from the dead to share that gift of life in God. And dear friends, that's the promise God makes to you. Promise that God makes to each one of us, that for this life, it is not just empty pain, poorness, and suffering, and ache, and loneliness, and what it means to hear others speak poorly, ill, yes, even hateful, but to speak a word of life eternal. Is it okay if I include all of that under advice? Will you buy that just for today? And maybe carry it with you, even beyond this day and this place. Thanks